The movie opens in America in the year 2022, where society has changed in surprising ways. Unemployment has dropped to only 1%, and crime has fallen to a minimum. This transformation comes from a bold law passed by the new Founding Fathers political party. They have given people the freedom to commit any crime they want for one day each year, a day that they call the annual purge. The idea behind this law is to let citizens release the anger and frustration that has built up over many years. In this strange new order, the law seems to create balance, even though it allows chaos for one day. We meet James, a clever and hardworking man who owns a company that designs and sells advanced security systems. James provides his systems to many households, ensuring that families can protect themselves when the purge begins. 1 hour before the purge, James drives home and arrives at his quiet neighborhood. His wife, Mary, welcomes him at the door with a gentle smile. Outside, the calm before the storm fills the air. Soon, Mary meets her neighbor, Mrs. Grace, who gives her freshly baked cookies. Mrs. Grace notes that most neighbors use James's system, and Mary feels reassured. Inside the house, Mary becomes startled when she sees her young son, Charlie, controlling a small robotic toy. Charlie maneuvers the toy with excitement, clearly absorbed in its operation. Mary calls him into the kitchen, where they talk about the toy in simple terms. Their conversation is light and full of innocent wonder. Later, at the dinner table, James shares that his company has achieved record sales for their security systems, surpassing all the competition. The family feels a surge of pride and joy, believing that their home is safe and that the future looks bright. As the clock strikes the start of the purge, a tense atmosphere fills the house. James retrieves a gun from a locked drawer and secures every door, determined to keep any intruders at bay. At the same moment, the emergency broadcast system sounds throughout the neighborhood, officially announcing the beginning of the annual purge. The broadcast makes it clear that, during this day, any crime is legal and no emergency services will respond. Charlie, curious and confused, asks his father why the family does not participate in the purge. James answers firmly that they do not feel the need to join because only those with long-standing hatred and violent intentions take part in such lawless act. In another part of the house, James's daughter, Joey, enters her room and is surprised to find her boyfriend, Henry, waiting there. Joey exclaims that her father would not be pleased to see him. Henry calmly explains that he came solely to speak with James about their relationship, since he cannot take Joey out on this day. Meanwhile, Charlie, using his robotic toy, notices an unusual figure outside the house. He sees a stranger who appears injured and is desperately running away from the chaos, screaming for help. Moved by sympathy, Charlie unlocks the security system, allowing the injured stranger to enter the house. No sooner does the stranger step inside than chaos erupts. James and Mary rush into the room where the stranger stands. James immediately feels fear and reaches for his gun, uncertain about the stranger's intentions. At that crucial moment, Henry appears and tries to shoot James with his own weapon. James dodges the attack and fires his gun, striking Henry. The sudden violence scares the stranger, who flees the scene in panic, leaving behind a sense of confusion and regret. Later, when James looks for Joey, he finds Henry lying lifeless on the floor. The tragic discovery shocks everyone, and sorrow fills the house. Mary hears Joey's trembling voice from another room and hurries to check on her daughter. Joey explains in a shaky tone that she never expected Henry to act so violently. Mary, deeply worried, returns to find Charlie waiting anxiously. Soon after, James reappears in the control room of the house and is stunned to see a group of purge men breaking into his home. Their leader speaks through a loud microphone, demanding that James hand over the stranger. The leader claims that neighbors reported a victim hiding inside the house and threatens that if James does not comply, they will break the door and take his family hostage. The purge men cut off the electricity, causing the security system to switch to backup power. Although Mary trusts the strength of the system, James admits that no system is completely safe. Confronted with the mounting danger, James makes a hard decision. He decides to hand the stranger over to the purge men in order to avoid further bloodshed. With a heavy heart and a firm resolve, James takes his gun and begins to search the house for the stranger. At the same time, Charlie uses his robotic toy to help locate the stranger's whereabouts. Mary, armed with her own gun and overcome with fear, follows closely behind. As James moves through the dark hallways, he hears the purge leader's voice again, demanding the stranger and warning that more equipment is coming to break in. While searching, James finds the stranger holding Joey hostage, using her as a shield. Desperate to save his daughter, James pleads with the stranger, warning that involving his family will only bring more danger. He asks if the stranger would rather stay hidden and die or face the purge men outside. Mary arrives and tries to shoot the stranger, but he reacts quickly, throwing Joey against the wall. She is badly injured and knocked unconscious. In the chaos, James fires at the stranger, wounding him again. They struggle fiercely before James finally subdues him. tying his hands and mouth with tape. As they try to secure him to a chair, he regains consciousness and fights back. James orders Mary to press a cloth against his wound, but the sight of his suffering fills her with sorrow. She insists that what they're doing is wrong. Meanwhile, a frightened Charlie runs away, and Mary follows to calm him. James reassures Joey, but she insists things are only getting worse. The wounded stranger, sensing an opportunity, begs them to save their children by handing him over. Before they can decide, the sound of shattering glass and heavy footsteps signals that the Purge men have broken in. James tells Charlie to hide in the basement while he and Mary prepare to fight. The Purge men soon find Charlie and drag him out. As one of them aims a gun at Charlie, James steps forward and shoots him dead. The violence escalates quickly. A man tries to attack James from behind, but James reacts fast and kills him with one shot. Soon, two more Purge men join the fight. Though outnumbered, James fights hard, taking them down one by one. He is injured and exhausted but does not stop. Then, the Purge leader attacks James with a knife. After a fierce struggle, the leader wounds James badly, leaving him bleeding on the floor. Outside, a surveillance camera captures a shocking scene. The neighbors, who had stayed out of the Purge, suddenly turn on the Purge men, attacking them as they try to leave. Meanwhile, inside the house, Mary is cornered by a Purge man and a young girl who try to stab her. Just in time, Mr. and Mrs. Halverson arrive and shoot the attackers, saving Mary. After the chaos, Mary rushes to James, who is badly injured. The Purge leader appears again, aiming his gun at James. But Joey, who had been hiding, shoots and kills the leader. The family mourns James as the night of violence finally slows. As the night of violence fades, the neighbors return to Mary's house. She thanks them, but Mrs. Grace coldly reveals that James is dead. She accuses the neighbors of attacking out of jealousy, claiming they resented the family's success. Mary pleads for peace, but the neighbors refuse. They tie up Mary and her family, holding them captive in their own home. Suddenly, the injured stranger reappears. He shoots Mr. Callie and takes Mrs. Grace hostage, forcing the neighbors to surrender. He then asks Mary what to do with them. The neighbors beg him to kill them, believing more bloodshed will end the conflict, but Mary refuses, insisting that no one else will die. As the night drags on, tension remains high. Just before the Purge ends at 7 o'clock, Mrs. Grace grabs a shotgun. Mary reacts fast, slamming her head against the table, breaking her nose. She reminds everyone that she promised no more killing, and she meant it. When the Purge ends, Mary lets the neighbors go, despite their betrayal. The stranger, still wounded, prepares to leave. Mary asks if he will be safe, and he nods in yes. He wishes her luck before stepping out, leaving the audience to reflect on the night's horrors.